We've just run aground. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Sailing with the Jameses. We've got a whirlwind of an episode for you this week. We're navigating the infamous Sandy Straits of Fraser Island, home to its ever-changing sandbanks. And yes, you've guessed it, we've found ourselves in a bit of a situation. So sit back, relax, and watch all the events that led up to this moment. Hi, we're the James family.
Are you sick of your day-to-day life? Ever thought about doing something different?
Well, we did just that.
We bought an unfinished aluminium catamaran and we're fixing her up as we sail around the world.
Come along for the journey and click subscribe.
Daddy? Mommy? Charlie? James.
Alright, so we're all set to leave Tin Can Bay and we've had an awesome time here. But before we go, we just had to tell you what we got up to last night.
So last night around sunset, just before sunset, Sam heard someone cry out saying, "Help, help."
So I grabbed the trusty binoculars and I was having a look through the binoculars and I saw this bloke standing on an upside down tender floating in the middle of the channel, floating out to sea on an outgoing tide.
So we quickly threw a life jacket on Charlie, quickly dropped the tender, and we went over to see if we can help.
I was going to jump in the tender, but Charlie was not missing out on all the excitement. So we jumped on in there and we went across and we saw this poor guy standing upside down on his boat. So we organised a line to our tender and we started towing him into shore.
It was like a sailboat type tender.
So, yeah, exactly. So it was a little sailboat that he used to get back and forth to his bigger boat, and the mast was so deep that we kept hitting the bottom. So what we needed to do was turn it on its side. We tried to flip the boat up the right way, but every time that we went to do it, we got a line, we got the gentleman on the boat with us, and we had to get beam on upwind, which was quite challenging with the tide, and then we'd go full bickies with our little 15 horsepower outboard, and we would flip it up the right way, but because all the sails were still up and there was a bit of wind about, the wind is what flipped him to begin with. It kept flipping back the wrong way. It had that much water in it that the free surface effect of all the water in it and the sail up with the wind, we couldn't keep it upright. So then we came up with another plan, and at this stage it's starting to get dark, right? So we were at trying to rescue this gentleman's boat for probably 3 hours, so we were there for quite a bit of time. So then what we decided we had to do was put it on an angle so that the mast wouldn't hit the bottom, but we couldn't flip it up all the way because then the sails would catch and it'd take off on us and bring it into the shallows. And once we got into the shallows, and we're talking, you know, he was a pretty brave bloke jumping in the water in the middle of the night, but he jumped on in there rescuing his important items that were floating around in the water. We picked up shoes, bottles, sandals.
Yeah, I've always wondered when we walk along the beach how people lose like one shoe and with whether they know it or not. This answers a lot of my questions.
Yeah. So once we had rescued all the stuff and he had put his sails down, then we were able to flip the boat up the right way. And once it was up the right way, we brought it right into the shallows on a sandbank. We let out the anchor and we left it there for the night.
So this morning the boat was able to be moved from the shallows to the public wharf, which is where it is now, safe and sound.
Yeah, so we got it and it's all in there now, and it's tied up. To be honest, I'm not sure how long it's going to be tied up there. If someone's down in Tin Can Bay even now and see it there, apologies, it's not our boat. We just helped them out. And that's where it is. But it was a very eventful night. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure what he would have done if we hadn't come along. Yeah. But yeah, we're about to head off this morning, and we just figured, yeah, we couldn't head off without telling you our adventures. Here we are. Let's hold the pick and let's head on up the Great Sandy Straits.
Yeehaw! All right. Alright guys, we are headed out of Tin Can today. We're gonna just pop the head sail. The winds have changed and they're in the right direction. The mission today, we're gonna head up to what's called South White Cliffs. Alright, we just put the head sail out. Sam's just turned off the engine, so we are using zero fuel. Yeah, brilliant, let's go.
Let's go. We can see a trawler is just coming in here. It's crazy to think that apart from on my family fishing boats and things like that, when I branched out, I was a teenager and my career started last century on these prawn trawlers out of Tin Can Bay. So yeah, when I was 17, I came on the trawlers and went to work, and yeah.
I've never left the sea since.
Wow, not really, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat to reminisce and see what it's like. So just so you're wondering, I think it was 1999, guys, so no, yeah, I think it's
last century.
Anyway, yeah, it's pretty neat to reminisce and check out the trawler.
We got a great spot in this anchorage, nice and sheltered where we were, but you can tell that it does look sheltered, but you can get a lot of fetch in certain wind angles from this anchorage. And unfortunately, some of the boats here have had a bit of bad luck, and there's a few over there up on the land on the shallow bits they've dragged and they've ended up on there. Some of them look like they've been there for a while. Yeah, sad sight to see. We're sailing through the Sandy Straits, so lots of sand patches, lots of sand banks, lots of shifting sands. So going through the inside of Fraser and up this area, so you really have to be vigilant, just keeping an eye out for sand banks and shifting sands and everything. We're just going past the Wide Bay bar at the moment, so if we were to turn right, out there is the Wide Bay bar, the Mad Mile, and we're turning left and we're going up the inside of Fraser. We just passed a lot of trawlers, so that tells you something, that if they came in, the bar would be so gnarly today.
So we're heading on up the straits here, and heading south is quite easy to time the tides and the current flow. Heading north, it can be quite challenging. Because the shallowest point in the journey is a place called Sheridan Flats. It's not where the tide splits. So if you look at, there's a point, Wineroy Point, just north of there, that tide is the highest tide around here. That is where it bottlenecks the most. And what happens is that tide will usually be double the height of the tide just out in front of the Tin Can Bay River here. So we have only got small entrances coming in the Wide Bay bar and small entrances going through Sheridan Flats, that through here it doesn't quite get the tidal range. And what you'll find is when you are heading north, the tide only flows north until around about halfway up the tide, and then what happens is it flows south for the rest of the incoming tide, because all that tide is coming through Sheridan Flats and coming into this area here until the top of the tide. So what I try and do is I look at the minimum I need to get over Sheridan Flats, and that'll give me a bit of a timeline on when I want to be going through there on the rising tide, so I can clutch the tide through. And then I aim to stop at South White Cliffs, because once you're there is where the tide splits, just past there anyway, and then you can catch the tide through. So it's very simple to do if you just want to push a bit of tide, then it's no worries. But if you're a bit of a tight ass like I am and want to catch the currents as well as getting the tide up here, then it does have a few added challenges, but it's a lot of fun to try and nail. And geez, it's a really good feeling when you get it right. And if I'm being honest, I don't get it right every time, not perfectly. So yeah, we'll see how we go today and see if we can time the tides perfect and sail all the way through.
We are well into the straits at this point. We've chucked right in and the sea state has calmed down immensely. It's now flat, calm.
So as with pretty much every passage we've done since the refit, we're getting here a little bit earlier than expected. So the shallowest bit is in Sheridan Flats. It's a place we call the Corner of Death. I was hoping to have 1.5 meters of tide when we go through there. We draw 1.2, and without the stakes we're being a little bit more conservative nowadays, because the stakes are a lot higher if we touch the bottom with just exposed rudders. But we're going to be going through there. It's going to be about 1.2, 1.3, somewhere around there, a little bit shallower. So we'll have to be a little bit more careful, and we'll probably show you the banks should be exposed. Hopefully we'll be able to see them fairly good and pop on through there. The benefit of going through so low is we're going to arrive and anchor at a place called South White Cliffs, and there's a shipwreck there, so we can zoom off at the low tide and go and check out the shipwreck and bring you along for the ride.
We are going through some shallow patches now. This is all a sandbank coming out here. We've just passed a huge sandbank down there. Oh, all the sandbanks. We're coming up to the Corner of Death now. Just up ahead, there's some flats, and you can see trees that have now come out of the water on the flats up there. Basically, we're going up, around, and then over there you can see the cliff, the high mountain in the distance. That's where we're headed, and that's South White Cliff. On our way south to Tin Can Bay, we took this shortcut through here at high tide. Although this route was plenty deep, today we are choosing to play it safe and stick to the charted channel. But what's about to happen is going to make us wish we had taken this shortcut. Sam saw some strange current lines and said it looked a bit shallow, so I went up on the bow to keep a better lookout, but the water was too murky to see anything. I'll go ahead and
Take the sail off.
Yep.
You pull in? Yeah.
I'm gonna go check.
We've just run aground. Welcome to the Corner of Death, where we've just run aground in the channel. The channel passes on the left side of this port marker and takes a semi-sharp turn to the right.
Did not expect that to happen. Put the bung in and we'll drop the tender.
Yeah. Gonna drop the tender to get way off the back.
Now some of you may be wondering now that we've got the engines going straight away, why we didn't just back straight off the bar and keep on going. And the reason being is I initially started the engines just to take all the weight off the rudders. We had the sail up and we had the tide behind us. Then I left the engines in reverse just at idle, just to try and slow things down. It was a pretty exciting moment for everyone. And when you get a little bit too excited in these situations, it's usually when you can make some mistakes. And as I had already made a pretty gosh darn big one, I didn't want to make any more. So we lowered the tender, sounded all around the boat just to make sure we were right and that it was just an isolated bar and that we could float over it and keep on going.
How crazy is that? We've run aground here and that's the port marker that we've got to go around. Literally run aground next to the port marker. So you've got to cross this side, go around, and there's another port marker down there. That is crazy. It's times like right now we are absolutely stoked with how well the boat is performing without the skags on, but I think we both agree right now, like right now we miss the skags, because if we ran aground with the skags on protecting the rudders, like it's no big deal. We've beached the boat before, but now that we don't have the skags, our main concern right now is the rudders, the exposed rudders. We're off. We did it with the stick. Sam got it off, and then we went around with the stick to make sure how deep it was. And now I'm gonna bring the tender up to the boat and we're gonna tow this behind us. But man, the tide is ripping.
Well, we can tick the box that we've run the boat aground now. Well, so that's the first time I've run one of our boats aground, so that's pretty cool. It's always a really good experience when you don't damage anything, and I'm fairly confident we came out of that completely unscathed. I was really missing our skates at that moment, but we were lucky that we hit it really softly. It's amazing, we ran aground in one of the places that I'm most confident in. That bar is definitely new, and we didn't follow the channel on the way south, we came on an inside route, and the shallowest I saw under us was 3.5 meters. With a just over 2 meter tide. Here we hit that at 1.3 meters of tide, and as you know we draw 1.2. Navionic said we should have had 60 centimeters at lat underneath us, and we didn't. So yeah, it was very interesting, a little bit embarrassing to be honest, but these things happen to all of us I suppose, and as long as there's no damage I'll be really happy with it. So some things I don't know if we recorded. Kate, we dropped the tender to make the back end lighter because it was just an isolated bar that we could see. It was one of those crazy moments where I even told Kate before we hit it that it looked super shallow and didn't look really good, but we went anyway for some reason. Then she went in the tender and just sounded the deepest part just to make sure it was just a bank. So we screwed off the bank, protecting the rudders. And now we're off again, and tomorrow we will go and dive on it just to double check that everything's okay, check the bearings, see if there's any slack there, and yeah, hopefully we're all good.
And we've just joined an elite group of people.
We've enjoyed the illustrious club of those who have run their boat aground. There we go.
There's a saying, there's two types of people, those that have run their boat aground and say they run their boat aground, and those that lie about it.
Yeah. Well.
My heart's still pounding a little bit, but I'm glad that we ran aground like where we did. It's all sand, it's all sandbank, so like no rocks. Charlie was really good, she's older now. She immediately got her life jacket on. We're both running around the deck, so Charlie was really, really good just now. Yeah, very. Had her life jacket on, all clipped, all zipped. Yeah. But whew, how's that? I'm gonna need to make myself a cup of chamomile tea, I think. Sam's had a look at the villages. He's had a look at the rudders. this far. And our anchorage is coming out right here. This is it right here. We're gonna go check out the wreck.
Yeah!
Little did we know, we almost became one of the wrecks of Fraser Island today. What do you two think about this boat?
I think it's awesome. It amazes me. You can see that's some kind of cargo hold there. It was angled sides, which means dirt or ore or sand or something like that. And all the outside is completely corroded away, but the boiler is in such good nick. Yeah, they really constructed them well back in the day. It's awesome.
There's also an old wharf up here, not in this creek, in the next creek up. We're gonna go check that out. Oh, Charlie, row!
Row, get us there, faster, faster, faster! Hey!
He's splashing down.
Whoa, you're too fast!
Fraser Island used to have a booming logging industry because it was a huge source of hardwoods like pine and eucalyptus. In the 1900s, the island had over 15 wharfs along its coastline for logs to be loaded onto steamboats and barges and then transported to sawmills on the mainland. Logging was banned on Fraser decades ago, and it's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But the remnants of the chapter of the island's history can be seen in the form of wrecks and old wharfs around the creeks and rivers, and sometimes old machinery can also be found along the coast. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider clicking the thumbs up button and leaving us a comment below. It helps us out heaps and we greatly appreciate it. A massive shout out to our Patreons. Thank you guys so much. We couldn't do this without you. If you are interested in joining our virtual crew and helping support us making videos and content, the link to Patreon is in the description box below. A huge thank you again for watching, and tune in next week, same time. Bye everyone.